Welcome back to Ron's Radio Corner. And this, I don't know, is this the first radio I bought that sort of started the trend of emergency radios that I have? Because I have a few of them right now. It may be. This is the Duronic. I can't remember. I think this one's called the ECHOHAND. And there's no label on it to tell me. So, this basically boils down to I'm having a conversation with my cousin, and we're talking about just, the idea of having an emergency radio, that being prepared, I suppose. And although I don't think either one of us are the type of people, who are really die hard, let's make sure we're prepared for anything. But I do think we feel that there's some reasonable measures that you should take, and one of those things is having a radio on hand. Um, Toddebert, which I I love his channel. I love all the content that he's put out. He's been gracious enough to respond back to me in the past when I've had questions about something. Um, Toddebert had this radio on, featured on his channel, and I think at the time it was like $7.99, or it was somewhere around $10 or less. And I thought that's a pretty sensational radio. Um, the performance seemed pretty good. It's a shame you can't really appreciate the way that I can see this in the camera, and the way the light's hitting this. It almost looks two-toned. It's not. It is an orangey red with white. It's got a really cute 1960s sort of vintage look, at least in my eye. Um, you have the hand crank there. You have an antenna, which I have to tell you, doing anything one-handed makes this a challenge, but you have the antenna there. Actually extends a fair amount. And then you have a hard table that I keep banging the radio off of. Um, you have obviously a tiny little speaker here. Here's your display dial. Does this have a tune knob on it? It's been a while since I fired this up. There we go.
Zone 95 southbound, heavy volume starts.
So that light may tell you when you're getting a good channel, because I see it fluctuate. And if so, that's something, because there's lots of radios that I have. Unfortunately, I know you can't see that so well. There's lots of radios that I have that are more expensive than this radio, and they do not have a little tune light like this one apparently does. Let's see if I turn this off. You can kind of see the tune light right there. And like I said, little tricky to try to tune this in one-handed and keep the other hand on the camera. The shocking thing is, let me put this light back on. The shocking thing is, this really doesn't do that bad of a job as a radio. As an emergency radio, it certainly doesn't have shortwave or weather band, two things that a lot of people would say, it should. But for the idea of having a radio you keep in the drawer in the kitchen, or maybe in a small bin with a flashlight and all the other essentials you should have just in case. This radio actually does a pretty good job of picking up all your local stations, which I feel is truly the most essential thing to have, right? Most people, unless we get into a really bad situation, most people, if there's a storm and power's out, you're going to be listening to your local stations. It does have a flashlight. This flashlight is more or less, and it didn't come on. I wonder if this is a little charging. The flashlight is more or less. Oh, there it is. I can see it flashing at me, but I don't know if you can pick that up. It's definitely the sort of light that might help you find the rest of the stuff in the dark, but you're not going to use this as a flashlight. But it's a pretty solid little emergency radio to keep in the drawer if you need a radio. And that brings me to my biggest gripe with this. And I just did a video on the Prunus J160 that hopefully will go up before this one. But if it doesn't, my gripe with the Prunus J160 is that there is no way to put regular batteries in it, no way to really easily access. It's not meant for you to access the rechargeable battery. Well, that is the same thing with this guy. There is no way to power this off regular batteries. There's no way to access that internal battery unless you open this up and take your chances that you'll be able to get it put back together again. That annoys the heck out of me. Because as I said in the other video, and maybe have said previously, radios like that to me seem like they're just going to be, slated for the landfill at some point. People aren't going to spend a lot of time on an $8 radio to figure out how to replace the battery, and that's a shame. This is a great little radio. I think they could have, if there's not room in this cabinet, they certainly could have made this just a tiny little bit bigger and made some room for a couple of double A's, which would have made this an amazing radio. There's the hand crank. The hand crank actually works fairly well. I mean, one-handed I can't really do much, but the hand crank works, pretty well. And by that I mean it's just it's smooth, it's easy to operate, and a few winds does give the radio a bit of playtime. There's also a jack on the front here. One I think is a headphone jack. The other is a power. And it came with a little adapter that was USB-A on one side, and then it plugs into this radio. And I had misplaced that adapter, which that kind of sucks because I really don't have an easy way to charge this up except to hand crank it right now. So that's another flaw with this radio, that if you lose that adapter, your ability to charge this thing really just becomes to hand crank it. There's no solar panel to leave it sit out in the sun for a few days. There's nothing like that. Again, it was like $7.99, and sadly, this isn't available on Amazon anymore. And I have found it by searching Duronic and finding their website, and found that I could order this from them directly and have it shipped here, and it would be a lot more money, to the point where it's not worth doing. But for the $8 that this originally cost me, it was a heck of a deal, and I would easily buy more of these because it's a solid little performing radio that I think gives you that versatility of charging it through that hand crank in emergency, and then if you don't lose the little adapter, you can charge it off USB. It's there in emergencies. Flashlight is, like I said, more of a gimmick than a usable flashlight, but it probably could help you navigate to where you keep the batteries if this radio was like left in a kitchen drawer. So if you like the Duronic, scour around on eBay. Maybe you can find it there. They made a few different models, and some of those models might still be available on Amazon. This was the one because of the price point. Like I said, for $7.99, anything under $10, what do you expect? The XH Data D219 for under $10 is a better radio than this. But it's not an emergency radio with the hand crank, but it does allow you to, well, it can only be powered by AA. So I think I would probably pick the XH Data over this all day long. But if you were looking for an emergency radio, something like, oh, well, what do we do if there's no batteries in the house? This would fit the bill, and if they were out there for $7.99 again, I think the performance is good for all your basic local stations. That I would pick it up. I think it's also a great little radio that you could have, you could throw in. It's pretty durable. The way it's made is pretty durable. You could easily throw this, in a bag if you are looking to have a radio with you. If you went to the gym, or maybe something you knocked around with, you're at work, you take a lunch outside, you want a little radio to listen to the news or some music. This would fit the bill. So I've had this one now for a few years. I like it. I wish that Duronic had continued to kind of make stuff that was in this price point and available here in the U.S. on Amazon. I would have loved to have seen AA added to this, so you could power it off with AA's besides the internal battery, or would love to see the internal battery be accessible so you could potentially swap that out. Um, I would have easily paid more for this radio if it had those functions. You know, maybe $15 instead of, which, I mean, $15 isn't much money either, but for a radio that was, I do think was $7.99, you talk about like twice the price. Uh, you know, I think it's a riot that it's got the little tune light because, like I said, I have better radios that don't have that. Um, so not much more I can say about the Duronic. I believe this one is called the ECHOHAND. So if you're really interested, go look it up. Maybe you can find one out there someplace. The reality is, for the same price point, though, you probably could go find a whole bunch of other radios without nearly as much work. If you're Duronic and you're still interested in kind of pushing these radios out to the U.S., um, hey, how about some double A's? How about making that rechargeable battery accessible, and maybe getting rid of the weird charging port in the front and put a micro USB-C? Probably won't happen. But anyway, thanks for watching.